Rhea Ripley just made history. The Eradicator is now a double champion after an absolutely insane episode of Monday Night Raw. We just witnessed one of the most dominant performances in WWE history, and if you missed it, you're about to find out why the entire wrestling world is calling this the greatest Raw of 2026. Let's go! What's going on, Suplex Rumble Nation? You are watching the #1 source for the most electrifying wrestling content on YouTube. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button right now because we're about to break down one of the most historic nights in WWE history. And for my loyal crew who've been here since day one, you know we've been saying Rhea Ripley was destined for greatness, but even we couldn't predict she'd do it like this. Alright, let's rewind and set the stage for those who need the full context, because this story has been building for weeks. Raw has been on fire in 2026. We're in the thick of WrestleMania season, the stakes couldn't be higher, and every championship is up for grabs. Coming into tonight's episode from the sold-out TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts, Rhea Ripley was already the WWE Women's World Champion, a title she's held with an iron grip, defending it against every single challenger who stepped up. But here's where it gets interesting. 2 weeks ago, the WWE Women's Champion holder of the other major women's title issued an open challenge. She said she'd face anyone, anywhere, anytime. She claimed nobody on the Raw or SmackDown roster could touch her. She called herself the true face of the women's division. Now, you don't say something like that when Rhea Ripley is in the building. Last week on Raw, Rhea interrupted a championship celebration and made it very clear she didn't just want a match, she wanted to become the first woman to hold both major women's championships simultaneously in the modern era. WWE officials initially said no. They said it would create too much chaos. They said one person holding both titles would hurt the division. But Rhea? She didn't care about politics or corporate decisions. She demanded her opportunity, and the WWE Universe was firmly behind her. The social media campaign was massive. Hashtags were trending worldwide. Fans were creating signs, making videos, and letting WWE know they wanted to see Rhea make history. So WWE management finally caved. They announced that tonight on Raw, we'd see a champion versus champion, title versus title match. Winner takes all. And let me tell you, the anticipation for this match was unreal. Okay, so let's get into the action because this match was an absolute masterpiece from bell to bell. The atmosphere in the TD Garden was electric from the moment both competitors made their entrances. The crowd was split, you had dueling chants, people on their feet, and the energy was just incredible. The match started with a feeling out process. Both champions showing respect for each other's abilities, circling, testing each other's strength. But that only lasted about 30 seconds before Rhea just exploded with a massive shoulder tackle that sent her opponent into the corner. And from that moment, it was on. These two women went back and forth with some of the most intense offense we've seen all year. We're talking stiff strikes, innovative grappling, high-impact moves that had the crowd gasping. Every single move looked like it hurt, and that's exactly what we want to see in a championship match of this magnitude. Around the 5-minute mark, we got our first big spot. Rhea hit a delayed vertical suplex, holding her opponent in the air for what must have been 15 seconds, showing off that incredible strength. The crowd counted along, and when she finally dropped her, the impact shook the ring. But here's the thing about championship matches, they're not just about power. The women's champion started targeting Rhea's leg, working a calculated strategy to ground the powerhouse. Smart wrestling. She hit a dragon screw leg whip, followed by a series of kicks to the knee, then locked in a knee bar that had Rhea screaming in pain. The Boston crowd was chanting "Please don't tap" because they knew what was at stake. Rhea's face showed the agony, but she clawed and fought her way to the ropes. That's champion mentality right there. The middle portion of the match was just back and forth excellence. Near falls that had everyone thinking it was over. The women's champion hit her signature finishing move, boom. 1, 2, kick out. The place went crazy. Rhea responded with a massive headbutt, followed by a short arm clothesline that turned her opponent inside out. She signaled for the Riptide, her devastating finishing move, but the women's champion countered into a DDT. Another near fall. At about the 15-minute mark, both women were down, exhausted, but the crowd was on their feet, giving them a standing ovation. This is what wrestling is all about, two elite performers giving everything they have. The ending sequence was incredible. The women's champion went to the top rope, looking for a high-risk move that could end it all. She jumped, but Rhea caught her mid-air. The strength. The timing. The crowd exploded. Rhea transitioned immediately into the Riptide position, that pump handle slam that has ended so many matches. She lifted her opponent up, drove her down with authority, and hooked the leg. 1, 2, 3. The place erupted. Rhea Ripley just became a double champion. She's holding both the WWE Women's World Championship and the WWE Women's Championship. History has been made. The referee handed her both titles, and you could see the emotion on Rhea's face, a mixture of exhaustion, pride, and vindication. She climbed the turnbuckle, raising both championships high, and the Boston crowd was losing their minds. Flashbulbs were going off everywhere. Confetti started falling. The commentators were calling it one of the greatest moments in women's wrestling history. And you know what? They were absolutely right. But wait, the story doesn't end with the pinfall. What happened after the match was just as important. Rhea stood in the center of the ring, both championships on her shoulders, and she grabbed a microphone. The crowd was still roaring, but they quieted down because they wanted to hear what the new double champion had to say. And let me tell you, her promo was fire. She talked about being told she wasn't good enough. She talked about people doubting whether a woman could carry 2 championships. She talked about proving every single doubter wrong. She said she wasn't just making history for herself, she was making history for every woman who was told they couldn't do something. The crowd was hanging on every word. She called out anyone in the locker room who thought they could take these titles from her. She said the door was open, but nobody was walking through it with a victory. Then she made a bold declaration: she's taking both championships to WrestleMania, and she's defending them both in one night. Can you imagine? The endurance, the challenge, the absolute audacity of that statement. But here's where things got really interesting. Just as Rhea was about to leave the ring, her music cut off. The lights dimmed, and we got a surprise appearance from a top contender who's been on a winning streak. She walked out onto the stage, pointing at those championships, making it very clear that she wants her shot. Rhea just smiled that confident smile, raised both titles again, and basically said, "Bring it." The stare down was intense. These two are absolutely going to collide, and when they do, it's going to be explosive. The seeds have been planted for what could be the match at the next Premium Live event. Now, while Rhea's historic achievement was the main story of the night, we can't ignore the other incredible moments from this stacked episode of Raw. Earlier in the night, we had an absolutely brutal #1 contenders match for the World Heavyweight Championship. 3 top stars in a triple threat match that tore the house down. The action was non-stop, and the finish came out of nowhere when one competitor hit a surprise roll-up after a distraction. That winner is now heading to face the champion, and that match is going to be insane. We also got a major tag team segment where 2 rival teams that have been feuding for months finally put their differences aside to face a common enemy, a new, dominant team that's been destroying everyone in their path. The temporary alliance was fascinating from a storytelling perspective, and I'm very curious to see if it holds or if we're heading toward an implosion. There was a phenomenal mid-card championship match that honestly could have been the match of the night on any other episode. The champion retained after a controversial finish involving some questionable tactics, which means this rivalry is far from over. The challenger has every right to demand a rematch, and I expect we'll see these two go at it again very soon. We got some major character development in a backstage segment where a rising star confronted a veteran, setting up what looks like a mentor-turned-rival storyline. The dialogue was sharp, the tension was real, and this is the kind of long-term storytelling that makes WWE must-watch television. And in a surprise announcement, we learned that next week's Raw is going to feature a huge contract signing for an upcoming championship match at the next Premium Live event. Contract signings in WWE are never boring. Tables will be flipped, challenges will be made, and chaos is pretty much guaranteed. Alright, let's talk about what Rhea Ripley's historic achievement means for the women's division and for WWE as a whole. From a booking perspective, this is brilliant. WWE has created a dominant champion who now has a target the size of Texas on her back. Every single woman in the locker room is going to want those titles, which means we're going to get stacked championship matches for the foreseeable future. Think about the possibilities. Rhea could defend both titles separately against different opponents on the same night. She could put both titles on the line in a triple threat or fatal 4-way. She could hold these championships all the way to WrestleMania and have the match of the night. The storytelling options are endless. From a character perspective, this elevates Rhea to an entirely new level. She's already been positioned as one of the most dominant women in WWE history, but now she's in uncharted territory. She's doing something that's never been done before in this era, and that makes her even more compelling as a performer. This also puts pressure on everyone else to step up. The women's division is more competitive than ever, and now you've got one person holding both championships. That creates natural animosity, natural rivalry, and